we were nowhere near the trail, but I had a nearby trail where we should have been. Oh, a little buck just flew. I was like, did you see that? Did we get that? Just went in.
Oh my gosh.
I think
it was a fly. I was like, did you swallow it?
I'm going to meet my protein goals for the day.
Welcome everyone to the season premiere of Hikes and Mics. I have a really special episode for you guys. It's been 3 years since I've had both these guests with me, and we're going to be catching up with them, hearing what they're doing, and hearing something special that happened after their episodes aired. But I have Elise and Tammy with me. You guys remember them from season 2 back in 2023, and we're just going to catch up with them first, and then we'll kind of hear some stories and what they've been up to. But Elise, can you share a little bit with the audience of who you are and what you and how you got into hiking?
Oh, that's a really long story, Ivan, and it probably is covered really well on our first, on our first episode. But just suffice it to say, I started hiking when I was young. I did a cross-country trip, and I just always loved hiking. And life didn't exactly permit me to continue that while I was raising my family and things. So I just decided a couple years ago that everybody was grown out of the house, and I had a lot of time to myself, and what did I want to do? And so it was hiking, and that's kind of what I got back into full force.
Love it. Yeah. How about you, Tammy? How'd you get into hiking?
My story's a little bit crazier. I was a ball sport athlete for years, ever since I was 5 years old, and I blew out my knee in 2021, and my surgeon basically told me I needed a new sport. And so I was like, well, maybe I should try hiking and see if I like that. It's not going to do anything. I used to trail run off and on, but I don't call that hiking. It's just a little bit different to me. And it ended up hiking led to backpacking, and here I am.
Yeah. And I can't wait to ask you about your new sport of ice climbing. But, since it has been 3 years since you've been on the podcast, Elise, I want to start off with you. What has life looked for you both on and off the trail since the last time we spoke?
Life is busy, Ivan. It hasn't slowed down at all. I don't even know how it's been 3 years. I mean, it just seems like, it was only a couple of weeks ago that we did that. But I basically spend my time traveling and going back and forth between East Coast and West Coast, where I maintain sort of two different lives. So when I'm out west, I get to travel, hike, and do all these really cool things that I love to do. And when I go back east, I put my family hat back on, and I spend time with my children and my grandchildren. I also hike out there. There's awesome waterfalls and things to do there. So it doesn't stop, but life does look a little bit different. But I've just been on the go for 3 years, and it's wonderful.
Yeah. And I love that your bio says, hike adventures for women.
Yes.
Do it her way. What does that philosophy mean to you now compared to when you first started building your community years ago?
So my community actually was just my hikes, my solo hikes. And I needed an outlet and something to do with them. And I was like, oh, I could journal, I could do this. And then I was like, no, I'm just going to, throw it out there. I'm going to, build an account. So from that, it sort of morphed into, once I got my guide certification, I decided that there's a lot of women approached me and said, we would really love to do what you do, but we're afraid, we don't know how to do it. So, I have this little business, and I take women out, and the do it her way. So the HER is actually capitalized, and HER stands for hike, explore, recharge. And so that's what, that's how that whole philosophy was built, is like, come on out, I'm going to show you how to do these things, and we're going to go out and we're going to have a wonderful time. So, yeah.
Love the community that you're building. And
yeah, I do too.
I think one thing that was really great to see is that REI reached out to you to do some gear testing,
They did.
which I think for any hiker,
Oh my
that's like a
gosh.
goal.
It was a dream.
Yeah, can you
Right.
share a little bit about how that happened and what does gear testing kind of look like for you?
So gear testing, REI just sort of had an open call for gear testers, and I belong to some other, organizations that I help support and that I help guide for. And they were like, if you have anybody that you want to send our way. So that's the kind of short version of how that happened. But yeah, when they have something that they think suits what I do, they'll reach out, whether it's apparel or gear. And so I got to test one of their great new gear duffel bags. It was just a prototype, and I got to take that on the road. So that went on a month-long trip up through the Four Corners, and I beat that thing around. I mean, we stayed in a hogan. We got dragged through dirt and rocks and mud, and it held up really well. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. I
Well,
enjoy that. Yeah, thank you, REI.
now you mentioned that you're kind of living these two hiking lives with the
Yes.
East Coast and now in the
Hmm.
Southwest. This backdrop and this weather in March or even
Amazing.
February is amazing. How is it compared to, your summer months in Pennsylvania? How does the landscape look? And then what are the trails like?
Right. So Pennsylvania is green and lush and beautiful. It's bucolic. There's countrysides and farms, and it's just beautiful. But the one thing that Pennsylvania has, and I live very nearby, a bulk of them are waterfalls. So if you look at my feed, you're seeing two things. You're seeing waterfalls, or you're seeing the desert, the Sonoran Desert. And even though I love to go everywhere and do everything, those two really, have pieces of my heart, even though I was born and raised on the ocean. So it's kind of funny, how it's like, you just touch all bases. So I'm really comfortable everywhere, but I think that's the difference. You come here, this is a different kind of beauty. Didn't ever think that I could fall in love with the desert, but I have. I mean, how could you not?
Yeah.
Right? Look at this, right? So, and winter sports, I will vicariously live through Tammy as she ice climbs and does all these really cool things in the cold weather. I'm like, yes, Tammy, but yeah,
And another thing that we noticed is on your post, you always like to end with stay curious.
right.
What does, where did that come from? And what does curiosity look like for you when it comes to the outdoors?
Yeah, so stay curious. That is me. I mean, I am curious and I am a lifelong learner, and I believe learning should never stop. So the curiosity part comes from, I don't just say like, oh, I'm going to go hike. Before I hike someplace, I totally research it, right? So, and that just fits my personality. So I have to know everything about it. And that includes the history, who lived here before, what happened here, what goes on. And then I'll go do the hike, explore the area, and then I'll see things that I didn't know, were going to be there. Then I come back and I do more research on it. So I think you have to sort of have a curious mind, to really enjoy the outdoors, the way that, well, at least the way that I enjoy it,
Yeah.
and the way that many people that I know enjoy it. So that's where that comes from.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's my little tagline.
I love what you've been able to post, and
Thank you.
I swear I think my Google Maps is just pinned with all these locations of
I'm
great
everywhere.
waterfalls. Yeah.
I'm everywhere. And usually when I pick up the phone, they always say, "Where are you now? Where are you?" And that might be mom, Elise, but,
Yeah.
and I just kind of laugh because, yeah, I could be anywhere.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty of it. Yeah.
Now, Tammy, it's been a little under 3 years since I've seen you. We actually backpacked the enchantments 3 years
That
ago.
death march.
The Death March. What's life been like over the last 3 years? Catch us up.
Oh, life has been pretty wild. I around the time, a little bit before the enchantments, I realized, I mean, I'm a 50 something hiker. I'm 54 now. And having had my knee replacement and gone through all the injuries that I've had, it kind of put me into the mindset of like, I'm not going to be able to do these things forever. And how am I going to live with the fact that maybe I didn't get to do everything I wanted to do? So in my brain, I created a list, and I had a whole list of all these things that I was like, if I could do this, this would be amazing. If I could do this, this would be amazing. And I made it all fall into place, and I finished my last thing in September. And then it's like, so now what? And of course, there's so much more to things, but I finished my last thing, which was the Haute route, a route that goes from Chamonix, France to Zermatt, Switzerland. And that was my end goal. I had built up and worked fitness wise to build up to that goal. And now I'm just doing some yoga. I'm doing some hiking, but I'm doing a lot of yoga and just different things because I think it's really fun to reinvent yourself and also reinvent your hobbies. And obviously, ice climbing and yoga are not similar at all. But my friends were like, well, thank God this birthday you're just doing yoga and not ice climbing. So I got into ice climbing in the time that we had, even in the enchantments. And for me, I just knew that if I reached a point in my life where I was on the couch and I was never able to do X, X, and X, then I don't know if I would have survived with that. Okay, with it be okay. So I went for it.
Yeah.
So it's been a wild 3 years since we were last, well, since the enchantments even too, because that was what, 2024?
Is it 2020?
Well, I think it was 2024 that we
Yeah.
did it in the fall. It was
Yeah.
summer, late summer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that was big for me because I have never done 2,000 feet in 3/4 of a mile in scree and maybe didn't know what I was signing up for, but we did it.
We did.
We did it. We went up Asgard and we came right
did.
back down Asgard. And we both might have fallen a couple
Yeah.
times, but that's okay. We survived.
I still look at that sun hoodie from that trip because I fell and it took a chunk out of my sun hoodie. And I look at it, I'm like, yeah,
Yep.
that's Asgard.
Those are wounds. It
you-
was lovely. And
Yeah.
I mean, for you to have invited me to that was like, there was no way that year. That was one thing I was definitely coming for. I drove up. I'm like, yes, I'm coming. It was so much fun.
And it's perfect timing because, people have put in their entries for the permit. And I think this week people will find out if they got it. For those that did submit or are hoping to get the enchantments permit, what's one piece of advice that you'd give them for Asgard?
If they're going up Asgard and over or
Yeah.
up Asgard and down.
Yeah, would you recommend going down?
No, I would never do that again. I don't repeat things anyway, usually. I would probably do enchantments again though, if it were up and over, because that was a little harrowing coming back down. I mean, I think in everything, I've over the last couple of years, I've had this change in my brain about, up until like my Whitney summit, I didn't even think I was going to summit Whitney. I was the least person that was going to make it up Whitney. And then I was on this, summit thing. And then it was actually my ice climbing guide who changed my mentality last year. And she said to me, as I'm getting ready to go up this crazy 130-foot ice fall way out of my range, she said, I want you to enjoy the moment. I want you to enjoy the process of it. Whether or not you make it all the way up, whether or not it happens, the most important part is the process. So I would say if you're doing the enchantments, really take it in. Really enjoy Kolchak Lake for a little bit because we got lucky. We got to enjoy it for a few days. But it's just like sometimes when you get past something, it's like, oh, I wish I could go back there for an hour or something. And I think the idea for me now is like, don't rush things. Just enjoy the moment and really be in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to dive deeper into that mindset switch because like once you set your sights on backpacking, like you hit the ground running with John Muir Trail, rim to rim in the Grand Canyon, enchantments, and then I think most recently Tour de Mont Blanc. What was that switch for you when it came to backpacking?
Well, I honestly had backpacked years ago, and maybe we talked about this in the first episode. I should have gone back and listened, but I backpacked one time with my husband back when we were first married in Missouri, and we had our dogs with us, and we heard wolves, and it was just not good. We went to the car in the middle of the night, and that was the end of it. And I was like, I'm never doing this again. And it was my oldest daughter during COVID who said, "Hey, do you want to go up to Idaho and Montana with me and we'll do a road trip and maybe we'll backpack into these hot springs?" And I was like, I was, to be honest, I was 6 weeks out from one of my knee surgeries. Now, it was a knee surgery that I was cleared for, I'm just saying, but it was a basic cleanup. My meniscus sent me on my way. But I didn't have skills. And we ended up, there was a thunderstorm through the night. It was like really crazy, lightning everywhere, smoke because there were fires. And we just didn't know what we were doing, really. I remember hanging a bag in a tree and grizzly bear, and we had bear spray, but still, like, I had no idea what I was doing. And I got home. I had used a borrowed backpack. I got home and I was like, oh, this is for me. If I can't play tennis anymore, if I can't do ball sports anymore, then I need something that is new to me that I can be challenged with. And I just am that person that needs to be continuously challenged. So I was like, I'm going to do the John Muir Trail. And I didn't know what I was getting myself into. There's a pattern here. This happens to me often. I bite off more than I think I can chew. Usually it works out somehow. One day it's not, and that's going to be okay now.
Yeah.
But yeah, backpacking just blew up for me. I love backpacking. And I occasionally will take women out for the first time and men out and kids out who have never been backpacking who say, "Hey, I don't feel confident." And we'll just go to find some, 3-mile hike, something simple like Alamere Falls is a really good one. Because for us, it's like 6 miles there. And it turned into so much more. And I get to share the joy of it, and it's not just something I keep to myself.
Yeah.
So backpacking is really special.
And that's blossomed to now ice climbing. You mentioned that for your birthday last year, you were ice climbing, and I think it's called the Fang
Yes.
in Vail.
Yes.
How did ice climbing kind of come about for you?
Well, my husband's a skier, okay? And we were going on this trip to France, and he was meeting up with all of his friends. Everybody skied but me, pretty much. There were a couple of the other women that didn't ski, but I'm like an adventure person. I took my snowshoes with me and figured, why not? So I had the Tour de Mont Blanc planned for the next summer. So I knew I was going to be back in Chamonix, like just 4 months later. And so I went to the guiding company that was doing, I signed up to do Tour de Mont Blanc through and said, "What do you have to offer in the winter here?" And they were like, "Well, we have an ice climbing class." And I was like, "What is that?" I didn't know what that was. But the way it all kind of snowballed is they said, "We're going to do it on a little 20-foot wall here in the valley. It'll be super easy, beginners." I'm like, I have no experience. I rock climbed years and years ago, don't have the skill, don't have the fitness. They're like, that doesn't matter. So I show up for the class and they said, "Well, we can't have it down here because it's too warm in the valley. So we're taking it up on the glacier." And I was like, what? How can I not do this now? The glacier? And they said, "Yes, we have to do lift tickets. You'll walk in crampons 2 miles and we'll get to this amazing ice wall." It's like a 60-foot ice wall. And I'm there and I look around and it's me and two 27-year-old 6'3" kids and the guide who's 6'2". And I'm 5'2". And I have to take 1.5 steps for everyone that's 6'2". And I'm just like, I'm doing this. And I got up to the wall and thought, this is so crazy. What am I doing? And I was hooked. I was just hooked. I came home. Ice climbing was over because the season is very short. It's a really January, February, very rarely December, very rarely into March, just because the ice can't form. And said, this is what I'm doing next year. And so I hired guides, and it was on Instagram that I saw the Fang and I was like, I'm doing that. I didn't know what that was. It was way out of my league as a beginner ice climber, but I worked really hard. I trained every day. I hired guides. I climbed in California. My guide in Colorado is amazing. She's shorter than me. She's just a little spitfire. I love her to death. And we just had this beautiful moment on my birthday that was so special that I think I'll have a bond with her for the rest of my life. It just was something I deeply wanted, didn't, when we walked up to it, didn't realize I was actually going to do that. It was straight vertical, way out of my range. But I shimmied my way up it. It wasn't pretty in places. It was very scrappy, but I climbed the thing.
You got it.
Incredible. And you're having fun with it too, because one of my favorite pictures is when you guys dress up in costumes. How did that kind of come about?
Well, okay. It, so I've been an athlete my whole life, right? I mean, I'm not the best athlete, but I've been an athlete, right? So I'm coming into a sport where I'm a beginner, right? I'm going to Ice Fest, which is full of all the pros in the world. Everyone's coming in. You have people who've been climbing since they were like 10 years old, right? Ice climbing since they were 20 years old or whatever, you know? And then there's me. And so I'm going to find a way to not be uncool. So I told my friend, here's the deal. We're getting costumes and we're going to show up at Ice Fest with costumes. And she was like, okay, let's do it. And so we showed up at Ice Fest and it was a riot. I mean, we were obviously the only ones in costumes. We didn't climb during our clinics that way, but we walked around town. We were always in costume. We went to the parties in costume, and it just became a way of like making it fun. I'm all about making it fun. Like if we're not having a good time, then why are we doing it? You know?
100%.
And so yeah, so we were known as the woodland creatures at Ice Fest. But then that snowballed and we continue to do fun ice events where we'll climb in costume and make it silly and fun.
I love that.
Yeah.
Now, both of you do really a great service to the outdoor community. Elise, you lead group hiking trips.
I do.
Tammy, I think you came up to Washington to do wilderness first responder training. How is it giving back to the community in those different areas?
I mean, I think it's wonderful. I've always been somebody who has been involved in community service. I've done mission trips over to the Dominican Republic. When Hurricane Katrina hit, we did a huge fundraiser in our front yard, which involved all the children in town. I mean, it was just wonderful, and that's just part of who I am and part of how I get a lot of enjoyment. So when I come to Arizona, I volunteer locally with the Fountain Hills Sonoran Conservancy. So I lead hikes there and, guide and just stay at the trailhead and help people who are showing up for the first time, who don't have any idea of, what they're doing. And so, yeah, I just believe that's really, part of what you should be doing, Yeah, to help the community.
Yeah.
I mean, I can just add to that. Elisa and I are a lot alike. I've been volunteering for years. For 10 years, I co-founded a nonprofit and helped run it with another mom. And I've always had that, need to give back. And me getting my wilderness first responder was a little piece in the puzzle for me because I do like to take people backpacking. I haven't figured out what I want to do with that and how I want to do with that because I do volunteer for the Tahoe Rim Trail as a trail ambassador. So eventually, probably what it's all going to lead to, as I'm publicly saying this, I'll probably end up guiding for the Tahoe Rim Trail eventually, or doing something on my own or whatever. But for me, the wilderness first responder, I've always had my CPR certification since I was 16 years old. We did that in high school, and it was a thing that, I kept up over the years. It would lapse a little bit here and there. And then I had a daughter with a medical condition, so I kept up with it at that point. And I came across a gentleman on trail, really my first backpacking trip outside of my one with my daughter. And I came across a man that was injured on trail and found myself flustered. Like, I don't really know what to do. He had a head wound and clearly was disoriented. And I didn't know what to do. Fortunately, I was a mile, like a half a mile from the trailhead, and I ran and got the ranger and was just like, I gave him like a tissue. It was really helpless. And it led to me getting my wilderness first aid, which then I was like, I really want to expand on this because
Mhm.
I do think if we're recreating in the outdoors, you never know when an emergency is going to happen. And to be honest with you, I haven't used my woofer in the wilderness yet, but I've used it twice in real life.
Mhm.
2 days after I got home, I witnessed an accident, had to get out and help the person get to the trauma, deal with all the 911, and then a drowning in my pool. And I've had to use it. And I'm grateful that I had it because with the drowning, there was nobody that knew how to do CPR. And it was scary and it was traumatic. And had I not been there, it would have gone differently. And so I think it's important that we all have skills, at least skills
Mhm.
for, I mean, at least skills for first aid, and
Absolutely.
it's huge for me. I don't know what my life is going to lead into. Who knows? I love teaching, so who knows what that's going to lead into.
Sure.
But I'd like to volunteer a little bit with SARS, perhaps. I'm also 54, so I have these moments where I'm like, I'm too old to do that, and everybody's like, "No, your wisdom is what SARS teams need. They need a woman with wisdom who's like grounded, who can say, no, this is what we're doing." So I'm kind of like toying with that a little bit. I have a SARS unit not far from me that manages the Tahoe Basin. So I may start thinking about volunteering for them as well.
Ooh, that's
But yeah,
exciting.
yeah.
Now, kind of shifting gears, this episode came about because Elise, you mentioned or you reached out and shared a really touching story that the podcast, both your episodes, it kind of connected you.
It
And
did.
then Tammy posted a great video a couple years ago of surprising you on the trail.
Absolutely.
Can you kind of give the backstory of how you guys met first virtually and then in person? And then Tammy, I'd love to get insight on surprising Elise at the trailhead as well.
It was really a very special time. As I said, when your podcasts come up, I listen to them. I try to connect with the guests you have on because they're always so interesting. You do a wonderful job of, selecting who you're going to, spotlight on your show. And so, just in the course of sort of connecting with people and saying, "Hey, great podcast," I reached out to Tammy, and Tammy was very quick to get back to me, and her response was very upbeat and positive, and we kind of just sent some messages back and forth, and the whole Arizona thing came up with, "Oh, so you're in Arizona? I come out to Arizona every once in a while," and I was like, "Great, if you're ever out here, let me know. We should get together. We should hike." And I mean, that's usually how it looks from the beginning. So, the one little key piece to that puzzle was Tammy said, "Well, I'm going to be out in Arizona." And it was before actually the time that we met, but she said, "I'm going to be hiking with my friend, Wendy." She's like, "Do you know Wendy, Scottsdale hiking therapist?" And I said, "No, but I'll go check her out. I'll go follow her and see what she's about." I wound up reaching out to Wendy as well because she lived, a couple miles from where I live. And Wendy and I started hiking. So every year when I would come out, I would be involved in the AZ Bootleg 100, which is a really cool challenge. And you have to hike 100 miles in 100 days, and it starts in December. I'm always behind because I don't generally get out here until, well, February 1st is when I come. That's a whole other story in terms of what I do in January. But, February 1st. So I'm literally, like I got to hike 100 miles and, kind of like in February and get it done. So I was down to the very last handful of miles, and Wendy was going to come with me that day. And we were hiking. And that's sort of how the story began, that Wendy and I were going out. She didn't do the bootleg, but, have a great bunch of supportive friends here, always helping, me to add to my miles. So that's sort of where the story started for me.
Mhm.
Well, I was coming to Arizona. This is my fifth actual, this is kind of wild because 5 years before, I came on a trip to Arizona, and it was my birthday trip. So it was like this whole ordeal that I didn't even realize I was a hiker at that point either. So this is my fifth spring coming out to Arizona to hike or vacation or whatever it is. And I was planning on meeting up with Wendy, which I had done the year prior, and we had done not Weaver's the thumb.
Tom
Tom
Thumb.
Thumb. Okay, I knew I was saying that.
Yeah,
I was like, is it Tom's Thumb?
No, they call it
So we had done that the year prior, and I said, hey, Wendy, I am trying to, let's plan to do a hike, but let's ask Elisa to go. But you ask Elisa to go, and I'm gonna secretly whiffle and waffle about whether or not I can make it, or and it was I kind of had, and I'm not like that, I'm not flaky at all, but I had to kind of like, she was like, are we hiking? And it was kind of like, oh, and so it was always the plan to surprise her. So we ended up, I don't even know where we hiked at. It was just one of these mornings that was like, it was early in the morning.
Mountains.
We were hiking before Wendy had to go to work. And we met up, and I'm hiding in my car with my California license plates thinking, oh, what if she sees? I'm really like, I don't need to go that far. She's like, I would have never seen your California plates.
No.
But I parked way over. I saw her pull up, and Wendy and I were talking. Wendy would be like, okay, I'm going to go over to her car. When I go over to her car, that's when you get out of your car. I'm going to hold her at the car. And I'm like, where am I going?
In the meantime.
So I go behind this sign. So we had this whole plan that I said, I'm going to come running up to you and act like I need something or whatever. And just, you've got to play it. Wendy played it well.
She played it really well.
I'm hiding behind the sign. They literally walk right past me, and I'm like, oh. And so I go running up like, I help, I need some help. I got hurt. And they turn around, and Wendy's just going along with it. And I was like, wow, she's a really good actress. And then Elise sees me, and she's like, oh my gosh. So it was a beautiful surprise. It was a wonderful day. It was my last day. We both had maybe 5 to 6 miles left on our AZ bootleg that year. And we finished it together, that I had my clothesline and we strung it across and we ran through like a finish line.
We had so much fun that day.
I don't know if anybody else has finish lines.
I don't know if anybody does, but we sure had fun. And I just remember, we're walking and we spotted this woman near the trail sign. So, instinctually you think like, oh, I wonder if this person needs some help. But we kind of walked on. The woman seemed like she was okay. And then a couple minutes later, we hear this yelling. And so it was actually Wendy who turned around to say like, oh my gosh, I wonder if she's okay. And I said, me and my personality, I'm like, oh, she's okay. I mean, I'm thinking to myself, she's at a trailhead.
Fine.
She's fine. She's fine, Wendy. She's okay. She doesn't need it. She's right here at the trailhead. What help could she need? So Wendy goes over to, to talk to her. And then I turn around and I look. And I'm like, and then they're both looking at me. And when I walked over and I realized it was Tammy, I mean, I like literally just broke down crying, like, tears of happiness, and of joy, like to think, oh my gosh, you actually made this trip out, so that we could finish the bootleg together. So it was just the sweetest thing. And that was it. It doesn't take much to figure out why the two of us, were able to connect. And so, we get together and we hike whenever, whenever time permits. So
both here in Arizona
and everywhere.
It's St. John.
So last year, January, well, prior to that, after we had hiked together, and then Elise invited me on a hiking trip on St. John, the island, and I was like, you can hike on St. John?
Yeah, so most people don't realize
what a place.
Yeah, St. John, the large majority of the island of St. John is a national park. So, you go there and it's an amazing place. And I've been there numerous times. I mean, more times than I can count. And it's just a place that you keep wanting to go back to. So again, it's like I'm hiking all these amazing trails and I'm kind of out there, on my own. And I thought this would be such a great place to bring ladies to. But then you sort of look at where you are and you look at the, what you think your itinerary is going to look like. And then you say, well, who really would fit this? And of course, I thought because St. John is a couple things, you're going there to hike, but it is a whole lot of fun on top of it. You know, everything about the island is just magic. So I'm like, oh, I wonder if Tammy would want to go.
Well, the
And that
other
was
thing
it.
too is
Yeah.
she infuses history into all of her hiking, which is really beautiful. Like I mean, I definitely like to learn about places that I'm at, but like Elise has the history, the depth of it. And that St. John trip really touched me in so many ways. And the places that we went to and visited and the history that she had behind it, it was a really rich trip for
It
me.
was a
It
great,
it
great
it
trip.
definitely really impacted me. It was beautiful. It was diverse there. We learned all about slavery, which was really
Yeah.
the depth of like really fascinating some of the history that we learned there. And we had fun at the beach.
And we had fun at the beach, and we had
stayed
fun at the
in the national
Windmill
park.
We did. We stayed on Cinnamon Bay.
Oh
Yeah,
my
which
goodness.
was just
She
amazing.
set us up for the best trip. And
It was
honestly,
good.
I
Thank you.
feel like I'm always like when I'm doing trips, I'm always the one that is the organizer, right? I'm the leader. They're like people rely on me usually be like, "Oh, she's going to figure it out." Well, I got to show up and I get off the ferry and there's Elise with a Jeep smiling,
Come
laughing,
on,
saying,
get
"Come
in.
on." And I
Get
had to
in.
do
We
nothing but hike
well,
and nothing but eat and nothing but beach.
beach. It was
It was
great.
lovely.
We hiked every day, and we did
We
some
did. It was
yeah,
beautiful.
the reef trail. I mean, we got to see those little snails. And do you remember
Oh,
we found that nail? We found that
yes.
nail
We
at
found a
at the
primitive
We
nail.
did at the historic site. It was
It
part of the
was
site. I mean, it was
incredible.
just amazing. It's a great
It's a beautiful
and
place.
places like that, they're hard to reconcile, right? Because they're so beautiful. But you realize that they were built, you know, on the backs of, you know, of slavery. And so it's this really sort of hard thing to wrap your head around because here you are enjoying it,
Yeah.
you know. But I think St. John does a great job of preserving and presenting the history of their island in such a way that when you go there, I mean, unless you know, never leave Cruz Bay where you arrive into, there's no way that you can't not learn, you know, the history of that island. So absolutely a great trip. And like I said, for as many times as I've been there, I don't think I had as good a time as I had, you know, with Tammy coming with me. So yeah,
Oh.
totally great,
We had
totally
fun.
great trip. We had a lot of fun.
And I know that both of you are doing this on a yearly basis, and it's something that I'm trying to do each year is just try to meet more of the people I know online in person. How has that been for each of you since the last time we spoke? Because you guys have met so many of your Instagram friends, which are now real life friends that you've gone hiking and backpacking with. How's that been?
I mean, for me, it's been amazing. I mean, I've traveled to Montana, met Instagram, you know, friends up there, traveled all over really. And so you kind of do, you can get a feel for people, you know, if they reach out or you reach out to them or whatever, you connect, you can really find the people who are truly authentic and ones who share your own philosophy about just life and about everything else. Like, would this be a person I would, you know, get along with? And is this somebody I could meet up with and hike with? And I've never been disappointed. I mean, in the people that I have met, through and mostly, you know, through Instagram. That's my main, you know, thing that I do. So, yeah, for me, I think it's been absolutely wonderful, you know, in that. And I know Tammy's a whole lot more extroverted than I am, and she's met a whole lot more people than I have. I tend to be a little more quiet sometimes, but
Okay.
it's
Okay. I actually just got back from Asia with an Instagram friend.
yeah.
I mean, I met her. Well, I mean, it is
Yeah.
Instagram, but I did meet her through the AZ bootleg, and we hiked together 2 years ago, and then last year. And last year she said, "Hey, I'm gonna go do a yoga retreat in Thailand in February of next year. I don't really have a lot of friends that would be willing to do that. Would you want to go?" I was like, "Yoga." Me, I'm like a bull in a china shop in yoga, but I was like, "Yes, I'm gonna practice and I will join you." And so we had a blast together. She lives here and I hike with her when I'm here. I actually just saw her a couple days ago, not for hiking, but for dinner. But yeah, I think that outdoorsy people are special. They really are. There's a love for the outdoors. There's a passion for the outdoors. Some people are more introverted than others, and you just know it. But
Right.
I feel like Instagram is more of the extroverted version of
Absolutely.
people.
Of
And
people.
and when people reach out to me, I usually have a really good
You get a good
tell.
feel.
I
You
get a
can
feel of
tell.
it, and I can tell if, like, I just met a guy that's from the Bay Area at my REI like a couple months ago, and we walked around REI a little bit and went and had coffee together. Super nice guy. And we've been meaning to hike together and hike together in groups, and it just hasn't worked out. I got sick at one point, and then I chickened out on something. And it's just all of, like, I just think that I am an extrovert. That's true. I mean, I'm very careful though. I'm a careful extrovert,
Mhm.
that I don't just show up hiking with anybody, but
No, no, and
I
you shouldn't.
usually will talk to them. And if we take it off Instagram to a cell phone, it makes me feel a little better, because then I can leave. This is the person I'm going with. This is their cell number,
Mhm.
you know. But I've never had any bad experience. People are just, I love people. So it's just like a new experience to meet new people.
Mhm.
And I love
And
that.
I think it's become a great avenue too. Like sometimes you do just meet people, and if you don't have a connection, if you have a connection of the outdoors, where I feel before it would
Mm.
almost be an awkward thing to try to keep in touch with like a stranger, but if you're both active and you have accounts and you have things in common, it's a much easier way to connect with
Mhm.
people. To say like, oh, are you on, social media? Do you have an account? This is what I do. If you do similar things, then it's great because then you can kind of form friendships that way, that will go forward versus just, how before it was like, well, you maybe met somebody who you might have had something in common with, but it was difficult to, move forward beyond that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's, like I said, I think it's been great. I've never been disappointed in the
Yeah.
people I've met. So, yeah.
I also think it's really neat for me. Like this year, I was on the Tahoe Rim Trail a lot, and I would just run into people and we'd just start talking. And
Hmm.
people just like to talk sometimes, and especially on the Tahoe Rim Trail, it's a really friendly trail, and people are just really outgoing. And they come to find out, they're like, "Oh, do you have an Instagram?" And I'm like, yeah, I have an Instagram. And so then you keep in touch with people, and then it's just a beautiful way. I've met some of the coolest people on the top of, like,
Hmm.
Morro Rock in Sequoia. I met this couple, this girl, and she's from West Virginia, and we keep in touch. And it's like we still laugh about, like, that one night that I got a new camera and she's a photographer, and we were playing around on the top of Morro Rock, didn't know each other,
Mm.
strangers, but then now I see her
Hmm.
life and her hiking life, and it's just,
It's
Instagram
cool.
is
It's nice.
special like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And at least for me personally, like when I get to enjoy hikes with other guests or people that I've met through Instagram, I love seeing how the dynamics play out. And for you guys, Elise, you're a group hike leader.
Hmm.
Tammy, you're an ambassador. You um, do have that wilderness safety background. What is the roles when you guys are hiking together? Do you guys fall into a specific role?
I think it just kind of depends on where we
Well,
are.
she's way more experienced than I am too. At well, yeah, with
Well, with
hiking and
guiding, yeah.
guiding and stuff like that. So
But
I'm very much, I mean, if you
you're
ask me,
easy.
I'm a very dominant person, right? I'm usually like the one that's doing things or leading things. It's a fun role to be able to not, I do rely on Elise to to,
I
you know,
I'm a very careful planner, and I think
she
that
is.
the guide, going through and getting my guide certification where you had to, you know, there's lots of steps that go into it, but you realize like how important it is to know where you are and things like that. So I don't easily defer to people, to other people, and I only defer to other people out on a trail if I really have confidence in who they are. And the last time that I did, it was many, many years ago. It was before I had my guide training. I was up in Sedona and I was with some friends up there. And my friend, my great college roommate from a long time ago said, "Oh yeah, just do this, this person, they know where they're going. You hike with them." And I did. And I'm telling you, this person had absolutely no clue as to where they were going. They were just like, yeah, I've been up there a lot of times. I think this is the way they went. And I like had the trail downloaded because I was even ahead of time. I was like, yeah, I can't trust somebody like that with my life. So, you know, we were nowhere near the trail, but I had a nearby trail where we should have been. Oh, a little bug just flew.
I was like, did you see that?
Did we get that? Just went in.
Oh my gosh.
I think
It was a fly. I was like, did you swallow it?
I'm going to meet my protein
flew
goals
back
for
away.
the day.
Right?
Good.
You're
It
gonna
went
feed
in
me
and
on
it just
protein.
went like right down.
Wait, you swallowed it?
It's gone.
I saw it on your glasses.
Why? Is it fluttering in your stomach? Are you okay? I'm fine. Do you need CPR? I'm trained. My name is Tammy. I'm trained in first aid.
It's right down there.
Where did it go?
It's gone. Did you think? I was like, just mid-sentence. I was like, something feels off.
I will see my death here.
You will.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway.
Wow. All
I
for the
think you're
camera.
stuck.
All for the camera. Yeah, you need some
Need
water.
some water.
That was so
He's good.
funny.
He'll find his way down. He's experienced.
Oh
good.
my
He
goodness.
knows
I
where
might
he's
not have
going.
handled. I'm glad he went to your mouth.
I'm glad he doesn't have a stinger.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. He was a fly. I
He was
saw
a
him.
fly.
He was a black fly.
He was a black fly.
Wow.
Done.
Wow.
On.
I'm
I
watching
took care of
you.
him. See, I'm good
Yeah.
on it. I'm good out in the wilderness. I
Yeah.
can handle myself. Fly, snakes, bears.
Bears.
I've seen them all.
She knows how to
Please,
survive on
I know
flies.
how to survive on flies.
Flies.
That
Survival
is it.
skills.
Oh my, yeah, my well, that was
Yeah.
part of it. Wilderness survival.
Wilderness
right, of my
survival.
guide training.
Great.
So, yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, back
Oh.
to So generally, I am just more comfortable if I'm in the lead, because it goes back to the whole, I do my research on it. So if something's going to happen to me, I want it to be my fault, not because I listened to somebody, who took me up solid slick rock and then was like, oh, I don't know where we are. think
I
it's
want
up
it to be
here.
her fault too.
Yeah, exactly. But there's a big, there's a big responsibility. Obviously it comes with that, which is why I would have never gone into guiding and doing anything like that before I had, the proper training to do so, because you're taking people's lives into your hands, when you're going out, and it could even be on a simple trail, but people get hurt, and I just want to make sure I can keep them as safe as I can. So I guess that's, maybe I lead a little bit more, but I don't know.
We don't need two of us.
We
We don't need two
we
of
just
us
don't,
leading.
and it's like
Yeah.
we actually work really well in sync together. So yeah,
I'm actually directionally challenged anyway, so
Yeah.
that's the truth. If
Each
I
have our
would
strengths.
never guide her,
yeah. We each have
she'd
our
be like, "We're going the wrong
wrong
way."
way. Yeah, within
And
seconds.
I'm like, "Well, okay, so we are."
We go a little off trail. It's the big deal.
Little gallivant.
A little bit.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, at least, we were talking before we were recording that something special is about to happen in Arizona here in the next week or two. And you got a chance to photograph it and see it.
I did.
And that's the cougar shadow over
Cougar
the
shadow.
superstitions.
Yes.
And then we haven't seen any. I'm hoping we see some today, but we're next to the Salt River. It's iconic for the wild horses. What's it like seeing those special moments here in the desert compared to being back?
I mean, there's so many special moments here, especially along the Salt River, and the whole way that I wound up relocating or spending, at least half of my year here. And it's not a traditional 6 month. I kind of go back and forth with that, because there's only a certain amount of time that I could take without seeing my family. So, my family isn't here and they will not move here, although they're all grown, older, leading their own lives, but I still need to get back and see them. So I go back and forth, but the moments, how I wound up in the East Valley was, that in itself was a pretty amazing story. This was not the place that I targeted when I said I wanted a place, to come to in Arizona, but it's where I wound up, and I think it's, where I should be. I mean, this corridor, and I'm so happy we're able to actually do, to do this here today, because this is filled with so much and so many special things, and those wild horses are, oh my God, they're magnificent
Beautiful.
to see. And I come down a couple times a week and I sit by the side of the river and just wait for them to come out. The cougar shadow is another really amazing phenomenon. It happens twice a year, and it happens in a specific place in the Superstition Mountains, which the Superstition Mountains is why I wound up in Arizona, because Tammy, maybe like you with the Fang, where you saw it and you were like, this is what I want to do. So for me, I would see all these great adventures going on in the Superstition Mountains. Started reading up on it, and I was like, oh my God, I have to go there. So the first time I came, did a little bit of hiking. Next time I came, I hiked Flatiron, which was insane. And I was hooked. And I was like, this is it. If I'm coming to Arizona, I need to be within, a reasonable driving distance of the Superstition Mountains. So I wound up over, here, east of Scottsdale, Phoenix, and everything like that. And I love it. So that cougar shadow, back to the cougar shadow, that happens in the Superstition Mountains. There's one specific place. Everything about it has to be perfect. Everything has to line up. So it happens during the spring and fall equinox. And maybe I think it's less than a week. Maybe there's a 5-day period. So say on a night like this would be perfect because there's no clouds. And it's a certain time that the sun hits the mountain and it looks like it's a cougar pouncing. And it really looks like a cougar pouncing. So you start to see it, unfold. And then, as I was telling you before, I must have the night that I went, the last time that I posted it was, must have had 100 photos, because you just never know. It's like, oh my God, is this it? Because then it just disappears. So then you have to go back through and see, well, which one is the best one, and erase 99 pictures. But it's really, and it's another thing that has just grown in popularity. So, first time I started to go see it, there was 1 or 2 people out in the field. Now, people are parked up and down the road to see it, but it's great. It's wonderful. And so it's one of those kinds of things where in order to really be able to see it, there have to be no clouds in the sky. But the one thing about Arizona are the sunsets here with clouds. To see this area at night, at sunset, then you add the horses on top of that. Oh my God. It's like you can't believe you live here. It looks like something out of a movie set, really.
It's hard to beat Arizona sunsets.
It's hard to beat Arizona sunsets. It really, really is. They're just beautiful.
Even with my color blindness, I can greatly appreciate it.
Even that you can see it. So yeah.
Now, Tammy, one thing that I had to ask, because I think the community really rallied around you when you shared this personal story, but you went to a bucket list destination, which was the Galapagos Islands, and you did something special that I think is just so inspiring. You shared that you had a fear of the ocean. And not only did you just full send it by going into the ocean, but then you swam with sharks. Can you share a little bit about that experience with the community?
So it was honestly, we planned the Galapagos trip in about 6 days before we left. And it was my daughter's 30th birthday. And I said, if you could go anywhere, where would it be? And she said, oh, Galapagos would be a dream. She is a wildlife photographer. So she works for a wildlife care association in Sacramento and does photography, does their marketing and stuff like that. So she's always taking photos of animals. And I thought, oh, that's actually kind of cool. But the logistics of Galapagos are not easy. It's once you get there, it's not expensive, but getting there is expensive, and you're paying high fees for the national park, but it's also so well preserved around there. So we went and we started the process of planning it, and I said, what do you want to do while we're there? And she said, well, I want to go snorkeling at this Kicker Rock. And I was like, oh my gosh. Okay, well, truth be told, when I was a kid, I was stung by jellyfish twice. One was a man-o-war that stuck to my leg in Florida. Oh. And then, believe it or not, I was scuba certified when I was 26. So we lived in Okinawa at the time. My husband was in the military, and he and I both got scuba certified. And I dove a few times and then swam right into a school of barracuda and freaked out. And that was the last time I've been in the ocean, literally in the depths of the ocean where my feet weren't touching the sand. And so this was a big sacrifice. This was a big fear I mean, I have a severe fear of the ocean, but in Galapagos, there aren't predators. So the sharks aren't the kind of sharks that are going to eat you. And I just said, you know what? Let's do it. Let's just do it. It was a 360, they call it a 360 tour that goes around the island of Cristobal. I think it's San Cristobal. And they take you out literally deep in the ocean into these rocks that are out there. And you jump off the boat and you go snorkeling. And the minute we went in, it was like first shark right under me, second shark right under me, sea turtles, enormous eagle ray. And I was just like, I've been missing this my whole life. So I think I'm going to go back and get recertified. I kind of needed it. I've always had a lot of fears as I've gotten older and had children. I think having children does something to you. Like my husband was military. He was gone a lot and my kids needed me, right? And so it's not like this hero thing, like my kids need me. It's like, what happens if I'm not around, right? I'm the glue that does everything and knows everything. And I think when my son went to college, I started to look at myself and like, I'm blaming everything on fears. I no longer have, I mean, they'll survive without me. If something were to happen to me, it'd be horrible, but they would survive. And it doesn't need to be like this, that I fear everything because I have children, you know? And so the last really 3 years of my life have been facing some serious fears. I have fear of bridges. I've worked through that. I had to go on a suspension bridge on the John Muir Trail, and I was terrified. And I did it. And I've worked out the fear of suspension bridges. I've been on at least 20 suspension bridges in the last couple of years fighting those fears. And the ocean was truly the last major fear that I've had that I needed to really overcome. And I honestly loved Galapagos and I loved snorkeling. And I think if anybody would have a bucket list, if you call it a bucket list trip, and you love animals, the Galapagos is where it's at. It is, you're walking around you have dinner, you walk out of the restaurant, and the sea lions are sleeping on the park benches. And they're laying around, they're in the streets. One was laying with his head on the curb. And it's just a place of like safety for animals. Like nobody touches them, nobody messes with them. I mean, you're swimming on the beach with sea lions and lizards or iguanas, the Galapagos is the only place in the world that has swimming iguanas. And it's just rich and colorful. It is a beautiful place. And I conquered it. I think I really want to get recertified for diving. Yeah. And really go depth, down to the depth.
Oh, can't wait to see what that,
We'll see. I don't know what that's going to be, but yeah, I mean, I initially was certified, but I'd want to go through the whole process of redoing it because it's been, 30 years, literally 30 years.
Now, before we kind of go into the last section of the podcast, I think there's a lot of community members that haven't made that initial step of meeting somebody in person. When it comes to building and finding community, especially in the outdoor space, what advice would you give to those people that are hoping to turn their online friendships into real life friendships?
Well, I think if you could meet as a group, maybe if you met as a group,
I was going to say
it would give a little more safety.
Yeah. And many of the areas have, organized group hikes. Like you can, go in and find where there are hikes. So that's a great way to connect with people. For me, coming out and moving to a place where I didn't know anyone, and I thought, well, who are the people that I want to meet? What kind of people do I want to meet? And that's when I started to volunteer. It goes back to the volunteerism. So, it always goes hand in hand when you align yourself with people that you have things in common with. So I think the same for anybody looking to meet, first of all, yeah, absolutely safety. I wouldn't just randomly meet up with somebody, without vetting them and all that stuff first. But Yeah, stick to a group is, yeah, I think we both feel the same way about
Okay.
that. Stick to a group.
Awesome. Well, it's only fitting that I have both of you here to kick off these new questions that we developed for season 14. And they're kind of a play on the questions that we like to ask all our guests, but we kind of separated them into different categories. And I'm interested in hearing your responses to some of these. But for both of you, do you have a pre-hike or first mile mindset, or a pre-hike ritual, or a first mile mindset that you do on either every hike or most hikes?
I have having a knee replacement, I struggle usually the first mile. So I have to get into that frame of like, okay, the first mile is going to be a little slow. I'm going to be stiff. It's going to be fine. But then I'm going to kick in at the 1 mile. But other than that, I just kind of get into that frame like this first mile is going to be hard and that's just what it is. And then I get going and I'm fine.
Sort of the same. There's no ritual, there's no routine. I make sure I get up early, make sure I hydrate, the night before, morning of to get out there. And I too start slow. I think, Tammy and I have talked about this, like between us, we've probably had 10 knee surgeries. So, for anybody out there who's thinking, oh, I'm getting older and I'm not going to be able to do this. Nah, that's not it. You can do it. So I'm kind of the same way. I just need to make sure that my muscles are warmed up, and that I'm stretched and flexed and ready to go. And I don't do that ahead of time. I mean, I do that my first mile on the trail. I just take my time and do it that way. So, yeah.
Okay. This next one's about post hike.
Mm.
Is there a go-to post hike meal or drink that you like to get?
No, I'm a really mindful eater, so I avoid, I don't love to, I can't say, oh, I go chow out on burgers and beers and things like that. I don't, but, I, I do like to eat after a hike, that's for sure. And my go-to food is pizza. So that I love. Yeah. Good wood-fired pizza.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm less mindful. I go for the burger and beer.
It's okay. Well, you have more fun, right?
She would just sit there with me and watch.
I would.
I'm
I would
kidding,
like,
no.
No.
I discussed this with some friends. I always thought that pizza was going to be up there as like a
Yeah.
popular post hike meal, but somebody said something to me that I think rings true. When it comes to burgers, it's hard to mess up a burger.
It's true. It is
True.
hard to miss a pizza.
Yeah.
That's very true.
I feel like with a pizza, like
Yeah.
you can get bad pizza that's still like
Yeah.
nutritional, but it's hard to get a bad burger.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's
Yeah.
true.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Now, this next one's about gear, and you guys have been able to test out gear from all different levels. What's one piece of gear that you guys won't compromise on?
Won't compromise on footwear. Absolutely footwear, because it's everything. It's what supports you, right? So if your feet aren't comfortable, if you've got blisters, or if your shoes don't fit right, you that's it. You're not going anywhere. So for me, it's definitely my footwear. And I only wear Solomons. Love them. They're just the greatest shoes ever. So
That's a really hard question because I want to say my Garmin, but it's also like socks.
yeah, well,
So I only wear Injinji socks
Right, so
because I
that's
never
your-
get blisters in them. So
Right.
it's like, I'll go with socks.
yeah,
It's hard for me to not think that my Garmin's in my pack because it
Yeah.
always is.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
we'll go with socks.
Yeah.
I love it. You got me into the toe socks.
They're the best.
They are.
They really are the best.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's the one sock that I've never had issues with blisters.
Yep.
Where like even the merino wool or alpaca, depending on the shoe, they'll give me blisters.
They're the
Oh,
best.
wow.
I'm glad you're using them because I think they're the best. I mean, I've been using Injinji since 2022 or early
Mhm.
2022. Yeah.
And you're
Long.
an ambassador now, right?
What?
You're an
I
ambassador.
am. I am. I'm one of their team athlete
Oh,
members. Yeah.
awesome.
I'm such a lover of Injinji and
Mhm.
I usually when I'm backpacking, I'll have a pair on in the back of my pack drying because I like to, that is one thing that I will bring as a luxury is having multiple pairs of socks because it's really important to have dry feet.
Yep.
Mhm.
And so it's always a conversation starter. People are like, what's that? What are those socks?
Yeah.
Like the best socks on the planet? You haven't found them yet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
that. Now, this next one is on the flip side. What's the most overrated piece of gear when it comes to outdoor gear?
I'll go first.
I'm gonna let Tammy go because she's just more of the backpacker.
I get these ads all the time too, and I'm like, I'm like critical on my weight, on my carrying my pack weight, and I don't understand the pumps for the air mattresses. They're like,
Talked about that.
they have to have battery. I mean, I'm like really minimalist, right? And I'm thinking, if I can't blow into my stuff sack and push it 3 times into my pad and blow it up for 21 days on the JMT, tired, hungry, frustrated, I mean, come on. Like, that is such a luxury item. And I just know I've never tried one just because I'm too skimpy on the weight. But that just to me it's not really a backpacker product.
Yeah, really.
I mean, I know a lot of people have them, so no offense to anybody who has it, but I'm not carrying that 4 ounces or the battery to back it up.
You do it.
Yeah, I don't, you know, I pack light, right? I carry only what I need. So basically everything that I have in my
Everything's
pack,
overrated.
yeah. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, but when you think about it, you carry your essentials, you carry the things you need. Anything beyond that, I don't carry. I mean, I'm not one that goes in for gimmicky things or I need this or I need that, I could tell you the things that are indispensable, but in terms of things that are overrated, yeah, I keep it to a bare minimum. I just don't spend the money on stuff like that, on the glitzy stuff. So yeah.
All right. And this is going to be a tough one for both of you because there's so many to choose from. But what's a trail or an adventure that sticks out for you still to this day?
Ooh. Oh, I know. I mean,
Or that changed you?
oh, that changed you. Well, one that sticks out to me would be Havasu Falls. I mean, there's no way you can't not go there. That will forever stick out in my mind. It's just beautiful, right? I've been to a lot of beautiful places, and I still see that water in my brain. But an adventure that changed me, and I have to say, was the cross country hiking trip that I did between high school and college, which was what sealed, it just changed my entire mindset about what I wanted to do going forward. And that ties into, what you had asked before and at the very beginning. And that's just sort of where it started. That was just something, I was hooked on it. And when I saw, what was out west and when I saw the mountains and you see everything, when you go cross country for 6 weeks and I just had it in my brain that this is it. This is what I want to do when I grow up. Well, I have grown up and this is what I get to do and I feel blessed. So, yeah.
I'd say the John Muir Trail, obviously. That's so iconic. And
Mhm.
I mean, it's a dream spot. It is by far one of the most beautiful. And I've
Mhm.
been hiking in different places in Europe. And there's just something about the John Muir Trail that is just beyond special. And I think it changed me in ways that I really relied, it's like it built a lot of confidence for me because I didn't know if I could survive 21 days in the wilderness, in the dirt, no showers, I mean, we did get 3 showers here and there at places we, stopped at for resupply, but like to rely on myself for like making sure I had enough food, making sure, I had the right gear and I, obviously you work really hard up to that doing prep hikes and trying things. But I think the John Muir Trail really built a lot of confidence in me and my confidence in the mountains and what I can do. My knee dislocated on me 3 days before we summited Whitney, and I had to deal with that whole injury and wondering if I had to get off trail and how it was going to happen. And I just kind of dug in and was like, threw a brace on it, shoved it against a rock, got it back into place, and I'm like, I'm doing this. And it was where I think I mean, I've always been a strong person, but it's like I found my mountain strength there, you know. So I mean, that's an obvious answer, I guess. John Muir Trail. I've done other amazing trails, but
Mhm.
that was the first one that really tested me and pushed me to my limits.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you're right. That's a hard question.
Yeah. It is a hard
It's a hard
question.
question because
Yeah.
I mean,
There's so many things you
Yeah.
could say.
So
Yeah.
many. Yeah.
And this one might be tough too, but I think everybody that has been hiking for some time, they've had to turn around before they reach the summit. Has there been that moment for you, and what did it teach you when you did turn around?
Well,
I'm gonna let you
this
go 'cause
hurts
you
a
can
little.
answer this.
I was set up I was planning on doing the Haute route in Europe for September. In August, I was set up to do the Tahoe Rim Trail. And then in between Tahoe Rim Trail, I was going to go hike up in Oregon they call it the Oregon Alps. And I got sick on the Tahoe Rim Trail on literally day 2 probably, and got a horrific sinus infection and kept trying to push through because I'm like, this is what I need this to prepare for, 4,200 ascent, 3,800 descent days. Like, how am I going to be ready for this if I don't do the Tahoe? And the Tahoe Rim Trail is so special to me. So I got about 50 miles of it done and had to bail. And I've never had to bail on a trail like that before. I've never been sick on trail, and it really hit me hard. But it also created this little mindset for me about how I'm experiencing things. And when I look back on my 4 lovely days on the Tahoe Rim Trail, it was glorious. I met amazing people. It was beautiful. I can't wait to get back. So, but that was my first failed. It's not a summit, but it was my first failed trail. And it was hard to swallow, but I survived. Here I am.
And for me, summits are not generally, what I reach for. So I have summited, Humphreys Peak. I mean, I've gotten to, a couple places like that. But I'm a destination hiker, right? So I don't always say I'm going to go, climb that summit. If that summit happens to be, where it ends up, then I'm good. So, my experiences are a little bit different because I don't do the multi-day. I mean, I've done it a couple times, but that's not my focus, So, so no, I mean, I can't think of any place that any adventure that I've started out on that I haven't been able to complete, but again, for different reasons.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, yeah.
Okay. Now, this one, you kind of shared a few things that are percolating for 2026. And I feel like we're barely getting into the hiking season for most of the West and even the East. Is there any exciting adventures on the horizon for either of you for 2026?
Yeah, I mean, my schedule's already starting to fill up. So I've got Oregon on the schedule. I haven't done much of the Pacific Northwest, and that's something that I'd really like to do. And I just kind of said, you know what, I've been wanting to do the waterfalls there. So I'm setting aside some time to go do that. I'll be up in Colorado. I'll be going with a group up there, to Colorado, going up to Montana again, be doing that in September. This summer I'll get back down to Tennessee. Florida is always a place that I go, but the adventure down in Florida is very different. And I plan to be doing a whole lot more overlanding, and just being out and spending time out in the, out in the great beyond, So yeah, I got a lot on the lineup. Yeah.
Can't wait.
Excited. Yeah, excited. Yeah, it's going to be some good stuff.
Well, my backpacking season starts pretty much at the end of this month. So I've got a couple trips lined up. I'm going to be in Utah. I'm also going to do the Teton Crest Trail this summer. So I'm a little nervous about that because I don't like the idea of being grizzly country, but it's also a fear thing that I've held that off. And so I'm definitely going to do that. And I'm getting a dog. I know that's not trail related, but it kind of is.
It is?
I don't know what kind of dog I'm getting yet, if it's a puppy or a dog, but I really want a trail dog. I met so many people on Tahoe Rim Trail last year who had their dogs with them, and I just would sit at my tent at the end of the night feeling lonely, like, this would be so great if my dog was sitting here with me, and
Yeah.
it's been about 4 years since I've been without a dog, so it's
That's
time.
hard.
So that's gonna be my big excitement for this year is figuring out how that's gonna work, because a puppy won't be ready to hike for a couple years, so I may just find a little rescue that has a little go in her and
Yeah.
rescue her.
A little
Yeah.
Abigail Jane.
A little
Abigail
something.
Jane.
I don't know, but I need a trail buddy.
You need a
And
trail
that's
buddy.
my dream because I really do want to get into solo backpacking a little more. And I think that's that last little bit of confidence for me is having a dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have one exciting trip coming up that's a little bit different than the ones that I'll be kind of doing by myself or just with a friend. But one trip that I do with my ladies every year, with different groups of ladies, is I do a lot up in the Four Corners region. That to me is just a very, very special place, and you never run out of things to do there. I mean, so pretty much September, October, that's where you find me. I'm up there. And so last year, I had the opportunity to take two separate groups of ladies out to the Santa Fe area, which is where we hole up for the week. And then we do all sorts of, day adventures from there. So we've done like, Bisty Badlands, Canyon de Chelly. Last year, Tent Rocks reopened. I was able to get, to get the permits to do that. But the really cool thing about that was with these two separate groups of ladies, there were women within those groups who knew each other. So now every month these ladies get together and they just reached out to me and they told me that they want to plan a trip with all of them. They all want to go together.
Wow.
And that just touched me so much to think that, they got so much out of it and that they all collectively sit around and just talk about like, these amazing places that they saw.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be a very, very special trip to have all these ladies together. I'm still trying to figure out how it's all going to work,
Yeah.
but it's going to work,
Yeah.
and it's going to be wonderful. But I'm really looking forward to that too. So yeah, that'll be good. Oh, these flies. Okay. They love me.
Well, I can't wait to see what 2026 brings for both of you. I'm really looking forward to seeing where it takes you. I'm interested in seeing what dog you get, what little
Yeah.
paw companion.
Yeah. I'm
And
excited.
for folks, at least, that are interested in learning more about your trips, how can they find out about the group and maybe some upcoming trips that might be planned?
I have a website, which they can go to, and that's hikeexplorerecharge.com. But honestly, the best way to do it is just to reach out to me on Instagram with that same handle and, send me a note, and I like to arrange trips with people. I do have some pre-planned trips that people are more than welcome to join. But really what I love to do is to take small groups of women together who know each other and put something very special together for them to do that. So that's what and it works, like I said, always. We had one woman from Colorado who plugged in with a group of ladies from Pennsylvania, and now she wants to come on this trip too. I mean, it's great, so yeah.
Wow,
Thank you. That's
beautiful.
how they can find me. Yes.
Perfect. Well, now we get to the end of the podcast, the this or that questions.
Okay.
These have changed this season. So there's a couple new ones, and I think we brought back some ones from season 2 that you might remember.
Okay. Or maybe not. Go ahead.
See
But-
if we answer them the same way.
Yeah.
Is that right?
I always love doing it with more than one person just to see if there's any
Okay.
surprise responses. So the first one is dense forest or wide open views.
Dense forest.
Wide open views.
Okay. And this one's a little tough, but peak bagging or wandering miles.
Wandering miles.
I mean, I'm still gonna have to say a little peak bagging, but like, I don't know, peak bagging. I'll go with that.
And then both of you have done this, and I'm curious to see what you choose. But if you had a preference, cabin stay or tent camping?
Cabin stay.
Oh, that's hard. Honestly, I really prefer a tent stay because you end up in places that you can't be in a cabin,
Mm-hmm.
and that's special.
Okay. This one's going to be tough. And maybe not so tough for you, Elise, but bug bites or blisters?
Bug bites.
I'll take bug bites too
Bug
Bug
bites.
bites?
in a second.
Bug bites for 100. Yeah.
And then one of our new controversial ones, when it comes to putting in those log miles, are you more of a music on the trail, whether it's a podcast, audiobook, or music, or nature sounds only?
Nature sounds only.
Nature sounds
Nature
only.
sounds
I don't have
yeah.
any music. I want to hear the
No.
birds.
Yep.
I want to hear everything.
Yeah, for sure.
And then this one's about your footwear. Trail runners or hiking boots?
Trail runners.
Trail runners. I will never put my foot in a hiking boot
No, they're just
unless I'm snowshoeing. But otherwise, I can't. They're I mean,
they're
they're restrictive.
and they're heavy, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And hiking boots, if your legs are shorter, just
Yeah.
where they hit you,
Mm.
it hits very differently, you know, than a tall person. You know,
Didn't
for
think
me, it
about
hits.
that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't do hiking boots. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And then the follow-up question, just because I found out about this during my research on shoes, Vibram outsole or just the standard brand outsole that's on there?
Vibram outsoles.
Although even my sandals have them, my
Yeah.
clogs have them.
You can't.
I'm all about these soles.
You
Yeah.
can't
They're
not
the
have them
best.
here.
Yeah.
You just can't.
They're great.
They grip
I've never
rocks.
slipped.
They get you through sand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Even when I was on JMT in my Ultra Olympus, and they were just destroyed from 3 weeks on granite, just constantly, they still had a nice grip to them.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I got back from
Yeah.
Sedona, and I sort of chuckle when I'm up there because it's like you're literally going up slick rock, right? And it's
Mhm.
like you feel like a mountain goat or something. I mean, there's just no stopping you.
Yeah.
It's like boom, 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 and it's all the footwear. You know, it's really
Yeah.
all the footwear that
Mhm.
allows you to do that. So
Yep.
yeah, totally. Yeah.
Now, this next one might be tough, but when it comes to summit conditions,
Mhm.
would you rather take a windy summit day or a cloudy summit day?
Windy any day. If I worked that hard to get up there and I can't see something, what a bummer.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you on that, but I just remember summiting Humphreys and the wind. I mean, I felt like I wasn't going to make it. I mean, I felt like I was going to get blown off. The wind was so strong. So I might say cloudy just for safety reasons. You know,
Okay.
the wind is pretty treacherous when you're up high like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Now, this one might be hard, but it might be easy. But national parks are hidden gems.
Hidden gems.
I'm a hidden gems too.
Totally.
I mean, I do love national parks,
Yeah.
but I want to find the place that nobody knows and go where the crowds are not. And
Exactly. My goal is to be away from the crowds. And national parks are, I mean, they are treasures. And I have been to them, and I would totally, make sure that I visit them. But,
Yeah.
I always make sure that I have a lot of hidden gems planned as well. So,
And thank you for helping choose this location because
Oh.
there's some traffic, but it's nothing like any national parks or national monuments.
no,
But
no.
beautiful views.
Beautiful views. I'm so glad it worked out, really. Honestly, this was,
Yeah.
came
And
together
I
nicely.
just realized that's 4 peaks behind.
That's
This is,
exactly.
oh my goodness. Yeah. Could
If
not
you ever
rest.
spend time in the car with me, that's right. There's 4 peaks. There's 4 peaks. No matter where I say that all the time. I love
She
4
does
peaks.
say
There's
that.
4 peaks.
we went and did
No
the
matter where
Apache
we are.
Trail yesterday.
Yeah, we
in our
jeeped to the Apache Trail.
Nice.
And
so it was like 4 peaks, 4 peaks.
Well, because you get to see it from every angle,
Yeah.
and Red Mountain, which is what I see from my backyard.
Mm.
And that's another one, because when you're down on the Salt, when the Salt crosses, so right now the Salt River is on this side of the highway.
Mhm.
But when you go down a little bit further, there's a bridge, and then the Salt River goes under the bridge, and then the Salt River's on that
Yeah.
side. And then that brings you closer to the mountains over there. And so I'm always looking for, wherever I'm hiking, if I could see 4 Peaks or Red Mountain, I know I'm like, I'm home, back. So, yeah. 4
Love
Peaks.
that.
Yeah.
Now, this one's a tough one in previous seasons, but spring wildflowers or fall colors?
I mean, I grew up on the East Coast, so I have to say fall colors. There's nothing more glorious than autumn leaves, So, yeah, I'd say fall colors.
I'm a spring flowers.
I love them too.
I love like June in Lake Tahoe area in the like Desolation Wilderness when they're just like, bugs are bad, but the flowers are just insane up there. So I'd have to say spring. I do love fall colors, but the spring wildflowers are just so special.
Yeah, there's so
I
many
mean, we
different
drove around yesterday
Mhm.
and there's just, it's such a pretty time to be in Arizona.
It's the wildflowers this year in Arizona are amazing. The
going on.
poppies are
popping
everywhere.
everywhere.
It's not a super bloom, but it's a lot. I mean, and they came out early, so it's
Mhm.
gorgeous. There's
So
fields of poppies up by Bartlett Lake. I was up there last week. Just beautiful, just beautiful.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Now, this last one is a new one for this season, but if you had to choose, would you choose type 1 fun or type 2 fun?
what's the most
You
fun
even
you
that
can
fast?
have?
I mean, Asgard Pass, is that type 1
One or
fun or
type
type 2
two, right.
fun? That's
Ooh,
like type,
type 3?
I don't
I
know
was
what
gonna
that would
say.
be, but yes,
Yeah.
I'm definitely a
Oh.
type 2.
Yeah.
The kind of grind where you're like grinding and you are like, I hate this. And then the next day, all of a sudden, magically, you love it.
Mhm.
What is that about?
Yeah.
You forget.
You forget
You
is what
forget.
it's about, right? Yeah, that was great. We had such a
It
great
was
time.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely type 2 or beyond, I enjoy life. I think the people that I'm with, I need to be with people who also enjoy life. Like so you need to have fun, Life isn't always easy, so you have to make it fun.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
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 Well, that was it, guys, for the this or that questions. For folks that want to see maybe some posts of what we talked about today or see
Mhm.
some upcoming adventures that you'll have in 2026,
Mhm.
where are some of the best places they can find you online?
I mean, Instagram, right? So hike, explore, recharge, hike _ explore _ recharge. That's where you will find me.
And I'm just Tammy on the trail on Instagram and sometimes Facebook.
Yeah.
I'm definitely for 2026, I want to start a blog and start doing more of a travel blog type thing
Mhm.
for my website. So I'm going to work on building that when I get back home with my dog.
With your dog.
I hope.
With your dog. With your
Oh.
Scoopy.
With my dog. With my scuba. I know. You never know what to expect
Yeah.
from me. Sorry.
I never know. It's okay.
Goes from ice climbing to hiking to ice climbing. I was a tennis player for years.
Right. Oh God. You know
Super
what?
weird.
But you hit the nail on the head before. It's like you have to reinvent yourself, like to stay stagnant, right? The only thing that we know in life is that things are going to change, right?
Mhm.
So why shouldn't we be the ones who are in charge of that change, right? And that's the way that I look at life. There's nothing, and Tammy, I have you beat by years, that, in age. So what I always like to say, especially to women, is you don't really ever have to stop or slow down. You may change the things that you do, and that's wonderful. But we should always be reinventing ourselves, right? We should always be coming up with new things
I agree.
to do, and you do a great
Yeah.
job at it.
Every year. Who knows what 2027 is going to look
We
like?
don't know. Right. We may have to do this every year just to catch up with
Yeah.
Tammy. I mean,
No, Tammy's going to start slowing down. Tammy has slowed down.
that is not going to happen.
Yes.
No,
Yes.
it's not.
Oh.
Anyway.
Well, both of you serve as a huge inspiration, not just to me, but I think to a lot of people on
you.
Instagram
Thank
and
you.
when it comes to the outdoors. But I can't thank you enough for coming on the podcast 3 years after your episodes have come out and sharing updates and exciting things that are on the horizon with us. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, because
Yeah,
if
you
it
came
was,
all the way
you came
here.
all the way here, and if it wasn't for you, we would have never met.
You
which
are the reason.
You are the reason.
So many people have met.
And
you
that is absolutely true.
I
whether
hope you realize that there.
Appreciate it.
I truly do. And it's funny because Elisa does the same thing I do. We were talking about it last night. I usually message almost all of when I listen to it. I'll usually message everyone on there and be like, "Hey, I listened to your podcast." I actually just messaged Tina Grimm the other day, and I was just like, because of the JMT thing and Ray Lakes, and I was like, "I love that you're writing a book about JMT and Ray Lakes and it's just a really neat way to connect.
No, it's
I
just a
feel like you
great way.
find the
Yeah,
best people.
you do.
Like you have the best people on.
Yeah.
And it's
And that's
like,
why I look at it. If Ivan has them on,
they're probably
they're
the
good.
coolest
They're cool
people.
people, right? We got to
Yeah.
definitely connect with
Yeah.
them. So yeah. So thank you.
Appreciate
you.
that.
Thank you
Yeah,
for having
thank
us.
you,
This is
really.
awesome.
No,
Yeah. So
yeah, appreciate it, guys. And
Super cool.
I got to say, I got to give you your flowers, Tammy, because I think I shared on the enchantments. My first backpacking trip wasn't something that was like, oh, I'm going to get into backpacking.
Yeah.
But hiking with you and then our other group
Yeah.
really made the enchantments special.
That was so
awesome.
special.
Yeah.
I mean, I look back on that time, you and I, where we were like the last ones slogging it out. And it just was special. And I didn't even care that we came in late
Yeah.
and had dinner later and whatever. We got down to the lake just in time for the
Mhm.
beauty. We really had a great connection and had a good time. And that I'll always treasure that.
Yeah.
Trip. Then thank you for inviting me to that.
Oh, of
I
course.
would have not seen that side of Washington either,
Yeah.
which is cool.
No, I really
Yeah.
appreciate it. And I was telling somebody recently, I was like, after that trip, I was like, I'm okay with the enchantments. But like you said, time passes and then you're like, well,
There are
why
so
don't we just
many
put in
other
a
places
permit?
we could go. But you went and did it again.
We got a
Did
cool
you,
permit.
did you do the whole?
Yeah,
Oh,
we
you
went
did. I
point to
bet it
point.
was different.
Yeah.
I bet
It
it was
made
better.
climbing up Asgard a little bit easier
'Cause
knowing
you
that I
knew
wasn't
it
going down.
was
yeah.
I can't even imagine. I probably would, especially because I've heard about the lakes on the other side. I think I would think about it.
Yeah, enough time.
Yeah, there are
to-
those
It would be a
places that
different
you
trip
say,
in a
I'm not
sense.
doing it again. And then
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
That's cool.
thank
That's
you
really
both for being
thank
on.
you. Thanks, Ivan. Appreciate it.